Good afternoon, Macau.
This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening, Portugal. Thanks to everybody for listening to us. We are again based in Macau, where you can find Mr. José Salas Marques, the president of the European Institute Studies, Mr. Sam Tu, a high-level manager in BNU, one of the two major banks in Macau. Definitely the biggest Portuguese brand on the banking system in Macau, with the responsibilities issuing the pataca, etc. And Angus is a friend, he's an entrepreneurship. He owns an IT company working in Macau, working in Great Bay Area, expanding to the Portuguese-speaking countries. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We are trying to foresee in the, let's say, 6 months ahead, and of course next year, what is happening with Macau economy on its own context, and of course on this global context of the pandemic that is slowing down all the economies all over the world. And of course, Macau is not an exception. China is not an exception. The Great Bay Area is not an exception. But I suppose each city and each region may look at it, the post-pandemic economy, in different ways. So we are going to discuss it through Macau eyes today. That's our proposal to all the world, so you better understand what we are living and what can we represent in post-COVID. I will start with José Salas Marques. José Salas Marques, the chief executive, and the official numbers, they assume that the gross product will go down like 60% this year, and the recovery we should expect to start only next year. Can you explain it? What is the data behind these conclusions, and how can we face this period ahead, José?
Hello. Yes, good afternoon or good morning, everybody. So it's a pleasure to be here. Macau is a very special economy, probably one of the very few economies in the world where the weight of the service sector is over 95%, and where in the structure of the economy, the gaming sector, which includes as well somehow tourism, has a weight of 85%. So this is a very special economy in that sense. And of course, being a very small place, with a population of around 650,000 people and maybe around 32 square kilometers of area. Most of the tourism and gaming business comes from outside, come from either Chinese, most of them actually, mainlanders, visitors and tourists, as well as international tourists. So the key essential aspect of Macau economy is dependency on the outside demand to the gaming industry, as well as to other services in Macau. So
the borders being closed is fine for health.
Of course, yes, of course. With the COVID-19, one of the main features of this is that mobility somehow stopped, right? So we are still very much constrained in that aspect. We start opening just a few days ago, or maybe 1 week or a little bit more, with a more, let's say, liberal policy towards the visitors coming from the Greater Bay Area, which is another word that you will be listening or hearing throughout this program. Of course, Greater Bay Area is a kind of a new economic area, new integration area that is defined by the Guangdong province, 9 cities of Guangdong province plus the 2 special administrative regions
we can
of
go
China.
there later. We can go there
We
later.
can go there later. But
just trying to conclude, if I may ask.
Okay, the important thing.
How can Macau wait another 6 months?
Yeah, well, actually.
And what recover are we talking about?
Well, actually, what is happening is that, as I say, we are slowly opening for visitors to come in from Greater Bay Area at this moment, and of course of China. All Chinese cities can nowadays have visitors coming to Macau, and the economy start picking up just very little, very slowly, because there are still many other aspects that have not been accomplished, including the issuing of free independent visitor visas to Chinese tourists to Macau. So what we see now is a very slow recovery, I would say, of the economy, just very, very weak signs. But nevertheless, because the government has been investing in internal consumption, so with several policies and contributions to the local economy. So what we see now is maybe the gaming industry start to show from 1 week to another something like maybe 70% growth, which is of course very significant from 1 week to another. But if we compare to 1 year before, it's still down by 95%. So this is going to take time. And what the many analysts think is that this initial estimate of the Macau GDP going down around 60% for this year is actually going to be worse. My personal prediction is that it will be between 70 and 80%. So I don't think this is very, let's say, encouraging figures. But if we look at it from the long-term perspective, nevertheless, it means that we are start recovering. And next year, I'm sure that it will be much better.
Okay, thank you. Sam, let me ask you, how do the companies and the entrepreneurs are living under this context? When you manage a bank, you know exactly what is happening. Are companies closing one after another? Is anybody investing? Does the bank freeze cash under this economic context to support? Yes. What is really happening in the landscape?
So I think it's a challenge in Macau. We are really during this period. It's a very good moment to see what is the internal demand in Macau. You know, the economy in Macau is only driven by internal people, because people here are quarantined by themselves. Here, the Macau economy is purely based on the local consumption of the local people. So we don't see so mistakes about that, because we can see that some sectors in Macau are growing, like the grocery stores, supermarket, some takeaway business, F&B. They are working quite well. We can see some growth area in this area.
Some technology.
Technology. We don't have the figures, but I understand that people are working online now. So I think this sector is also good. We can see from the Nasdaq, we can see those technology company price keep going up. So in Macau, of course, because as Dr. Marcus mentioned, Macau economy is an open economy. We rely on tourists. We rely on the demand from overseas people coming in. So during this half year, a lot of companies in the tourism sector, large restaurants focusing on tourists as their customers, are facing difficulties. And we can see some of the shops have been closed. Some of the shops are focusing on tourists are facing a lot of pressure. So, but well, luckily, we have a strong government to support that. I'm saying that the government started very well, even though it is a new government. It started very well to protect the citizens here, particularly put the priority.
Zero cases in Macau, which is a global example.
Yes, and then recently they also, through Macau Foundation to release 10 billion subsidies for the local SME in order to maintain the employment, their employment, in order to maintain the unemployment rate under control. So I think the business sector are facing a lot of pressure, but I think they can only survive for short term. If we keep this situation for another six months, I don't think they can sustain like this, because nowadays we don't see turnover. You go to big hotels, they basically are empty, and we need some things to improve the situation. So I think this kind of COVID-19 and characterize this the change of Macau model. How do we overcome the current situation, and how do we plan for our future? It is Macau is too much relying on tax, the gaming tax from the gaming industry. As the Marcus mentioned, we rely on 85%. 85% of government's revenue from gaming tax. So, and that was last year, and then previous year is only around 80%. So we keep on relying on the gaming tax, which the Macau economy is very vulnerable in this situation. We need to be diversified. The government has been talking about diversification for a long time, and we never put it into really a workable way. And now we talk about Greater Bay, as Balu mentioned, that now we need to think about the Greater Bay area, and also how we follow the central government's initiative to use Macau as a platform to facilitate trade between Portuguese-speaking countries and China. I think we need to accelerate this thinking, and in fact, the central government talk about the Greater Bay Area, and then just keep talking about that. And over these 6 months, I heard a lot of local people saying that people are locked in Macau. We cannot go to China. We cannot go to Hong Kong. What about people talk many about Greater Bay integration, but it seems it did not happen. And
there is
hopefully,
no clear plan. There is no clear plan on the side of the people and the companies.
yeah, but it was good that recently, our government successfully, have arrangement with Guangdong to open the cities to Macau people. So I think it's a good start that Macau people and people in the Greater Bay, except Hong Kong, can come, to Macau, after the test. And of course, I still need to wait and see whether there is a new visa issue for this individual.
We'll go back to this issue in 5-10 minutes. Let me just call Angus and pick it up where Sam is leaving us. Until the end of the year is too long to resist with no revenues, with no economy. Waiting for the next year, it's dangerous. Something needs to happen. The local market is reacting. There's some new things are happening, but of course not enough for 85% of the gross product. How do we look at it from inside the company? You are a project manager. You have investments ahead, right? You need to develop, not depending on casinos as the only client, right? Under this context, with the gross product going so down, with the economy blocked, with long-time perspectives for recovering only next year, what does a company do? What can a company do under this context to develop, to sustain, to grow, to resist? What is happening in the field?
Actually, I echoed what Mr. To and Mr. Jose said earlier, that at this point, I think as a company, our feeling is actually quite mixed. On the one hand, we hope the reopening of the border between Macau and mainland, and also to the rest of the world, that can help us to keep us contact with outsider, especially for the tourism industry and the aviation industry. On the other hand, that we are afraid of that there will be another wave of the COVID-19, which you can see what's happening in Hong Kong. But in the short term, I think this has to be how to get our business activities active.
Yeah.
Even inside Macau, you see the government actually are doing quite a lot of initiatives and measures to help us to keep the business ongoing, like the tourism, the local tours, and subsidies and interest-free loan to the SMEs. Lots of these kind of things that the government actually is doing to help the companies. But in the end, it's just a very temporary help. You have to get the business back. So at this point, I think we got to for those business or SMEs, if you are doing the local communities business, that you can see there are a gradually recovery for the local communities, like the restaurants, like the supermarkets, but for the hotels, the gaming industry, and the tourism, it's actually quite still in a very difficult situation at this moment. And as a company like us, we are doing the data, technology, research, this kind of stuff, and we are actually affected quite a lot because we cannot do, let's say, one of our business is to the big data on the tourists. Then, if there are no tourists coming to Macau, then your activities just stop. But on the other hand, we try to keep our business ongoing. Is we use the technology like the online meetings, the online communication, so that we can keep up with our clients in a remote way. Which actually can help us to keep the business ongoing. We also provide some kind of solutions to our clients that they can use. For example, in the past, if you want to order you want to do the attendance, if you have a fingerprint, then at this time you can use a QR code to do some kind of you change the system.
So like Sam was telling, IT, informatic
Yes.
communications, distribution, online shopping, some of the sectors.
Yeah, online. Yeah, you do some kind of online solutions. Yeah, online solutions. And
do we have critical mass in Macau to go for that, Angus? Really?
No. At this time, I think in a very short term, you have to try to keep your business ongoing, rather than you should try to expand your business, or you want to make a large or mass.
So these are conservative times for companies. We are resisting.
Yeah.
We're not investing, is it?
Not at this point. I think in the future, actually, we can see their future for us. But yeah, we'll talk about it later.
But Angus, do you think that the current COVID-19 side effect is to categorize, people use more online services and more tends to use the mobile, channel for their
sure.
business?
Actually, our team did a survey in February this year when the outbreak just began, and for 1 month, I think it lasted for 1 month. We did a survey for the Macau citizens. We interviewed online. We did an online survey. We surveyed around 3,600 Macau residents. Our result shows that now more people are using the online to keep in contact with others, do business, do the online orders, and they order food. They keep people can order. They buy the goods from Taobao, and you see quite a lot of this kind of online activities happening.
Yeah, I suppose we may assume it's happening a little bit all over the world, right? Just to finish this round and move to another subject or complementary subject on the Macau future economy. Salles Marcos, let me give you an old Macau boy's thought. 20 years ago, before the e-gaming liberalization, of course, the gross product was 10 times less or more. I don't know the numbers, of course, the numbers by memory. But the level of life was okay. I'm asking this because some clearly explain, and I agree, that we are living on local economy now, right? If the e-gaming recovery supposedly needs to be gradually, nobody knows exactly where you can stop or where you can go from here. Circumstances in China are changing, circumstances in the world are changing. I don't know if the gross product will ever be the same, but let's suppose it gradually recovers up to a certain level. Jose, how can Macau with 600,000 people, if the tourism goes back, let's say 50% or 60%, is Macau able to have anyway a high level of life for his middle citizen? Because 20 years ago, without the gaming on these levels, we did it, right?
Yes.
So I would like us to look at it in a perspective, saying maybe we need to restart the gross product because the gaming goes down. But what is our value? Is it the same as it was 20 years ago?
Well, I think this is a very interesting question, and of course difficult to answer because there are many angles to it. Well, 20 years ago, Macau had 8.5 or something like that million tourists per year. Okay, nowadays we have around 35 million. Last year, 2019, something like that, 35 million. So, and okay, the GDP also grew manifold, per capita GDP as well. So Macau people has now a pattern of consumption which is very different from 20 years ago. I would say that 20 years ago we were quite a small town, comparatively speaking, okay? And the way of life was of something like, let's say, I wouldn't say a small town because we have always been international, but it was very different from what it is today. Of course, that with the gaming boom and the very, very high growth that we had over the years, we had some major problems, major issues. The first one being overcrowded. Macau to be overcrowded. Many people complain that nowadays it's hard to walk in the streets, to take public transportation, or to many other things related with the fact that all in a sudden our number of visitors jump so many times. But on the other hand, we have to say that the quality of life, particularly the quality of maybe jobs in Macau, increased quite a lot. Increased because our jobs are more sophisticated, better paid, and the level of of employment is higher. Because 20 years ago, we have to remember that Macau was in a not a very good economic environment or economic health. Macau was actually under recession due to several issues that happened before the handover. A few years before the handover, we know the Macau economy went down quite a bit. So we were not so good, and then we managed to recover. So I think it's not very realistic to think that we can go back. I mean, it's a very difficult idea to, I would say, to digest.
Well, today we are 60% back.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Well, the thing is, but the problem is also the model that was implemented in regard to the gaming sector. This model relied on volumes, okay? I heard many people say that maybe Macau should have 40 or 50 million visitors per year. So the idea is always volume. Of course, we know that this is something also that is not completely true. Not completely true in the sense that for many, many years, the VIP gaming sector was the leading sector in Macau, and it's very difficult to be overcome. Actually, lately, the so-called mass or premium mass market actually became more important, relatively speaking. But if we look at recovery, for instance, we're talking about the future, will the mass market and the premium market be the drive for recovery of the Macau gaming sector? Because this has to do, after all, with the recovery of Macau GDP and the whole economy. I don't think so. I think that eventually we will have to rely on the VIP market for the same simple reasons that VIP gamblers or VIP clients have a much higher capacity in terms, of course, of consumption, of gaming, of gambling. And on the other hand, it also has a much higher capacity of mobility because they are rich, right? They have a lot of money. So they don't use eventually the same channels of mobility that the mass market and the premium mass market uses. So I would say, yes, they use private jet. And so I think that we are relying again on the gaming, on the VIP market. So for our recovery, I don't see any, because the thing is, notwithstanding that China is doing quite well in controlling the the COVID-19, but there are always many possibilities of some negative outcomes, such as in Hong Kong, as it was mentioned just a few minutes ago. So the thing is that for the mass market, for the premium mass market, all these possible visitors to Macau or potential visitors to Macau, will they enjoy the same level of confidence in terms of consumption that they used to have before? I think that is another issue, because we know that notwithstanding the fact that the Chinese economy will eventually grow maybe 1.2 or 1.3% or 1.5% by the end of this year, nevertheless, it's still a very, very small growth in comparison to what was the norm of 6% or something like that. So, and I think there are many wounds that were created by this pandemic even in the Chinese economy. Not to say about other economies that will suffer maybe much more. But nevertheless, because we depend so much on the Chinese market and somehow to the market of the Greater Bay Area as well, I think that we will effectively have some long months to go before we can effectively say that we have recovered at least a decent level in terms of economic growth that will allow us to be, on par with what we were before the crisis. So this is my perception, not a very positive or encouraging one, but I think I'm being quite realistic.
It's not the rainbow, because has been clear about it. But he also pointed the way, focusing on VIP gaming again, which we did before, and then we changed for the mass market to attract a lot of tourists. Is sophistication a way? For example, in the finance sector, we have been hearing about modernizing all the systems and the new formats, new products, going for modernity, going for IT. We have been hearing news about the stock market in Macau, insurance designed products for Chinese entrepreneurs to invest in Portuguese-speaking countries. Are we talking about sophistication and modernity as the way to Macau to change for the mass market tourism to something with a net value?
Well, I agree with the Marcus saying that the fact is Macau is relying on VIP, relying on mass, but it depends on our capacity whether we can do it. I think we need to find a new model to deal with that. We can replicate what happened before, but may not be exactly the same. In 2003, when we were with SARS, after SARS contained, then the central government started the individual visit scheme. It was very effective. So the economy in Hong Kong and Macau were increased, and of course, in line with the opening of gaming sectors. And I have some figures. Over the last 20 years, the GDP has grown from 59 billion in 2002 to 435 billion in 2019. It is seven times. It's seven times. So it, with an average rate of 9% every quarter increase. So with this individual business scheme, it helped the economy of Macau. And I think in the future we do not have another way to do it. We can only replicate it. But when we talk about the mass market, I don't think it will be realistic now, because nowadays China has so strict control in people moving from one province to another province. Now we can only relax our people travel within the Greater Bay. So I don't think we can go back to the 30 million, people visit Macau. The figures, it's not realistic. Even half will be really good. So for the banks in Macau, over the last 6 months, we are really, the banking industry is still very solid. Overall, the banking industry is still maintaining very good capital adequacy ratio. The bad debt is still very is controlled in 0.3%. So the bad debt ratio is very low, and everything is well controlled, I would say. And what we are working on that with the AMCM is trying to use Macau as a platform to promote renminbi. I think the monetary authority is working on a way to facilitate Macau as a kind of platform for issuing bonds for company in China or any companies in the Portuguese-speaking country we can set up a very well infrastructure in Macau so that we can attract companies to issue bonds in Macau, and also for the exports to Portuguese-speaking country. BNU as an example, we had recently signed an agreement with the Nacional, which is the China exports credit insurance company, that we can rely on their services to insure those exports to the Portuguese-speaking countries. So, which is very good that we can make use of these services from Nacional to help Macau company to export goods from China to the Portuguese-speaking country, so that we can.
Let me ask you this: typically, in the financial markets, when a city goes to that move, because we have been somehow dependent on Hong Kong expertise and products for a long time, right? When a city like Macau decides that move, right, with the political support, banks, understanding, entrepreneurships, interests, etc., typically, how long shall we expect this type of plans to have a real effect on our lives in our companies in Macau?
I think we should have an infrastructure first. What I mean infrastructure is the law, regulations, control, the government control, and how the banks and the companies in Macau to fit into the entire structure. And people is not an issue. You know, Macau is an open economy, and then that's only the policy. Hong Kong is very open economy. A lot of experts, you know, from all over the world go to Hong Kong for jobs. I think Macau should follow the same way. Macau is we cannot always look at Macau as a small town. You know, Macau was given by the central government a very good status. We are an SAR. We have the money, the currency flow free, and then we are an open economy. But the policy for labor policy is an issue that we need to solve. Hong Kong is very close to us. If we need any expertise or experts in this financial sector, it's very easy. They just come over. Like for doctors, if we need good doctors, we can pay high.
They are in mainland, they are in Singapore, they are all over. Macau, can affect them, yeah.
Macau should open up to all the experts from all over the world to come to Macau. Macau is a good place. I will say that, you know, even after the COVID-19 is contained, Macau is the safest place in the world. The figures tell you, you know, we have only 46 cases confirmed, and all are recovered. We don't have people die from COVID-19. We are very safe. So after the say, you know, we have the vaccine later this year, I think Macau is very safe. Tourists from you know, China, tourists from Asia, other countries, they can come to Macau very safe. And we have very good hotels. We have very good facility for convention. I think Macau will be the very best one to be recovered soon. But talking about the mass market or the VIP market, I don't think the people will have the same behavior like before. I don't expect we will go back to around 38 million visitors a year. This type of figure. People will be very conservative. But Macau is still a very good place.
Okay, Angus.
I think Mr. Thomas is correct. We cannot expect we can go back to those 15 golden ages. What I'm thinking these days is we got to have a new framework for Macau to move forward. Like we cannot just wait for the visitors to come to Macau and to contribute to our economy. On the other hand, we need to go out. We need to go to let's say, the Greater Bay Area. We need to go to those Portuguese-speaking countries. Macau actually can be, under this framework, can be the middleman, can be the hub of Chinese people from the mainland, Chinese business from the mainland to the Portuguese-speaking countries or the rest of the world, and vice versa. So I think after this COVID-19, Macau, including us, including the government, we need to think a new framework for us to move forward. People suggest the Qing'ao concept, right? We got to be more involved in the development of the Hengqin Island. Let's say for the business people, for the small, medium-sized enterprises in Macau, we got to speed up, especially in the technology part, in the development of technology, the application of technology. Actually, we are actually behind those in the mainland. So, under the new concept of Qing'ao or the framework of Greater Bay Area, we got to be more active to go out, to do more connection with,
and much more competitive, as you were mentioning, because when you talk about cities like Shenzhen, Guangdong, Dongguan, they are much more developed than Macau today.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the topic we just mentioned, online connection, digitalization, the application of the new technology. You see, in Macau, for SME sectors, we are actually far behind of those in the mainland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Salas Marcus, when we let's go straight for that point, maybe even joining them together with the Portuguese countries, because in a way, we have been talking about Macau reality, the dependence on the e-gaming industry and that kind of tourism, its consequences, what can we do to change, and COVID came to change it anyway. We would love probably to have 30 million guys in the casinos next year, or in 5 years we are probably not, or we are definitely not going to have it, so we need to change. The Portuguese-speaking countries' opportunity, if we may call it like that, I am a player of that field, I am a believer, the city knows, everybody knows. This newspaper brand we have been developing is a believer on that. It's working under that mindset frame. Okay? You all people have developing some ideas and some conscience on it. It started 10, 12 years ago. The question is, Salas Marcus, Great Bay Area is not a new word in the Portuguese economic mindset. We have been talking about it probably for the last 10 years. I remember I was taking a coffee probably 10 years ago, and Salas Marcus passed through me and said, "Hi, we need to start talking about Great Bay Area." I don't know if it was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. But because the economy is in this stage now, and whatever we may do, it's not going to recover immediately under the same frame. Is this the opportunity finally for a city of 500 and 600 million people, 1,000 people, I'm sorry, might organize as a service society, and to understand that Great Bay Area is 80 million people market, 14% of China gross product. We have privileged access and the guidelines from the central government to work it out, to have a plan for that, to understand what Macau want to do in the Great Bay Area's opportunity. And the Portuguese-speaking countries market is a 200 million people market, historical reasons, and countries all over the world, in all continents, right? Salas Marcus, this crisis could be definitely the conscience of the city to organize itself to go for these two major guidelines that everybody talks about for the last 10 years?
Well, let me use this. I think everybody is aware about one word in the chemical reality, or the chemical word, which is an accelerator, right? Accelerator. So it's a substance that, after all, make the reactions much faster and so on. I think COVID-19 has been is an accelerator to the change of a world economy, as well as many other patterns and many other behaviors that we have in the world. We've been seeing that. And of course, one of the major immediate consequences is exactly online business, right? This has been a big transformation, a big increase in online business. Everybody now is using online business, and that would not happen without COVID-19, okay? So it acts as an accelerator for a new way of life, new way of consumption, new way of buying, and so on. Well, it is also an accelerator to the very, very important fact that Macau has identified many, many years ago, which is the need for us to diversify our economy. I think nowadays we know exactly what it means not to diversify, okay? We don't know yet how to diversify, but we know the consequence of not diversifying if we have, again, a kind of a setting where we do not have the same flow of foreign or outside visitors to Macau, the outside demand. So this is something that is a very, very important lesson from this experience that we are living today. So having said that, we've been looking at the Greater Bay Area as a huge opportunity for Macau. And as you know, I've been trying to work out some ideas, been writing about this for some time now. And I think one of the major topics that I always try to underline are the official responsibilities or roles that Macau must play within the plan for the Greater Bay Area. And there are three, okay? One, of course, everybody knows, is to be the some kind of a center for leisure and tourism, a world center for leisure and tourism, which we are in some way, but not completely. The second one is to be the platform between China and the Portuguese-speaking countries, which we are somehow, but not completely as well, and there's much more room for expansion. And the third one, which was identified by the government, the central government of China, and those people who wrote and approved, of course, at the highest level, the Greater Bay Area Plan, is to be a center for cultural interchange between Chinese culture and other cultures, okay? This last aspect, last role of Macau has not been given enough attention, okay? And this is another huge possibility for Macau, since it opens the door for Macau to play very interesting roles with business opportunities in regard to education, cultural exchange, content production, content I would say adaptation, things like that. So there are many, many things regarding this last aspect, business opportunities that has never been considered. Because usually when we talk about Greater Bay Area, we only talk about the first two platforms, okay? But anyway, regarding the Greater Bay Area, I think that Macau must look at it as the opportunity, because it's through the Greater Bay Area and linking the two, these ideas, that we can find our new positioning in terms of economy that uses the resources that we have. And now what we have resources in terms of financial resources. We have huge financial resources. We have resources in terms of manpower, particularly in regard to the relationship with the Portuguese-speaking countries. We have somewhere the resources in the cultural areas, in the academic area, and so on and so forth. And we need to use these resources in a very creative way to make the most out of our role in the Greater Bay Area. And we must do something also which is within this plan, which is this axis, Macau-Zhuhai axis, okay? Which of course involve Hengqin Island. So I think I put somehow on the table the different elements that we can play with or work with to make Macau an active participant of the Greater Bay Area, not only a passive, looking for having more tourists or just joining, you know, for instance, Greater Bay Area could be in the future an integrated tourism destination, okay? And it will be, I'm sure it will be, once some facilitation in regard to visas and mobility and so on can be created so that the Greater Bay Area could be visited by foreign tourists in a way that they might be visiting Macau or Hong Kong nowadays, you know, with the most almost, I wouldn't say visa-free, but at least with a lot of facilitation in terms of traveling and so on and so forth. So Macau can play a very important role and must play a very important role in the Greater Bay Area in regard to diversifying our economy. And as I mentioned, we must use our resources, the resources of our financial capability, because banks are full of money. I think the financial system is full of money, right?
Angus, we know how to use some of it, right?
Well, the thing is to use it in the right direction, right? To use it in a productive way, to use it in a way that have good returns for our economy, eventually through financial flows, of course, but also in terms of creating maybe new industries, new jobs, new possibilities for Macau, for the Macau population not to be so dependent as well of the gaming sector in terms of jobs and in terms of career opportunities. I hope that we look into that really in a very, very serious way. There must be a plan. I think we must work out some kind of a plan, you know, to integrate all these different components of our possible or potential participation in the Greater Bay Area, link that with the Portuguese-speaking countries, because the fact is the Greater Bay Area, as Paulo was just saying, can be a very important market for the Portuguese-speaking countries, because many Portuguese-speaking countries, companies, sometimes they think of a Chinese market as a Beijing, Shanghai, or very, very developed markets, or which is so difficult to just get into that market. Sometimes it's almost impossible, overcrowded, and the transaction costs are very, very high. So why not try, you know, this market of 70 million consumers, or even more if you consider the Guangdong province. It's bigger actually than the Greater Bay Area, and then there are other connections, right? And try to work out, you know, something like possible cooperative projects between the private sector, have also some, for instance, one project which I look at it in a very positive way is the project of opening a faculty or a medical school. I think this is something that is involving the University of Macau with one Portuguese university, I think it's the University of Lisbon. So this project of opening a campus for a medical school at Hengqin Island that will service of serve international demand and the regional demand, of course, for medical training. That is one possibility. It's open again, and it's linked to the other one, which is the use of Chinese medicine worldwide. We know it's very difficult to do that because of many, many issues in regard to regulations, in regard to well, many aspects that has to do with the character of Chinese medicine. However, if we can, implement this kind of experience, showing in this area in Macau, through our cooperation with other cities of the Greater Bay Area, with the Portuguese-speaking countries and so on, that it can be worked out, then we have an open door, for instance, to the internationalization of Chinese medicine in a way that eventually would be more difficult to do it through just the normal channels, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. A lot of ideas, but I believe a key point, the opportunity, Jose said, of course, Portuguese-speaking countries has a complementary size, mindset, and Western touch, whatever we can do about it, but the opportunity is Greater Bay Area. Sam, do you agree with that? And why are we depending on the government to have decisions or tell us what to do? What can the private sector and the private corporation start immediately doing?
Yeah, my idea in China is everything are policy driven. And well, Greater Bay Area for Macau is an opportunity, definitely. But I don't know how long. The most important thing is now banks just facilitate different clients' needs. We try to meet those needs. And from my understanding is, the entrepreneurs are more focused on the law and the tax. For Macau, all people know about the Greater Bay Area. So when we promote this Greater Bay Area to the Portuguese-speaking countries, and we need to know very well about our position, because in Macau everybody knows about Greater Bay, but in Portugal, people don't care. What Greater Bay is so good for Macau. What is the benefits? That good for me. I'm my company in Portugal. Why should I, opportunity cost? Why should I put the money in Greater Bay instead of, for example,
Brazil,
Spain, France? Why should I put the money into Greater Bay? Tell me, very far away from Portugal, right? Take a one-day flight. Okay, so Macau entrepreneur or Macau government should know very well about what is the role, what is the benefits that we have. But at the moment, I'm sorry to say that a lot of we do not find many successful stories. We do not find many. If we have a very good successful stories that we can sell to Portuguese-speaking country, will be good. But what we know is Macau Bay is very good. Macau Bay is very successful. McDonald's very successful. They have a very good network in Zhuhai and Zhongshan. Other projects in Hangqin are real estate projects. So how do we diversify? How do we make use of the benefits that we have? But I don't know what are the benefits yet, because the 9 cities in China and Hong Kong, Macau, we don't know what are the overall benefits yet. Until we know it, then we can sell it. Until we have a very successful story, then we can sell it, replicate it. So I have a dream.
I imagine even the banks, they may believe on it and start loan for some projects on it.
We already believe in
it, right? Yeah.
Well, we actually set up a branch well before the announcement of the Greater Bay in Hangqin. Because we are in Macau for 118 years, so we try to follow our customers to China. That's why we set up our Hangqin branch there to provide banking services. And now the Greater Bay is good for us, so we can promote our service and we can we can satisfy our customers' needs in China and in Macau. And even now we can try to promote the Great Debate initiative to the Portuguese-speaking country. But when we promote it, it set up some successful stories. And what are the benefits that the Portuguese company can set up operation in Macau as a stepping stone and develop further the business in the Greater Bay area. So I think it definitely is an opportunity. But how we do it, we should have a strategy. We should have a strategy to do it.
Angus,
I see a great opportunity to for Macau business to expand or to develop in the Greater Bay Area. And you can see, especially Hengqin is the stepping stone or the headquarters for many of the big companies who are coming to the station in Hengqin. And I see that Macau needs to change, and Macau will change. Because in the past, Macau is very Macau-centric because we rely on the outside. We want people to come to Macau. We want the money to come to Macau. But in the future, in the new framework of the Greater Bay Area, I see that Macau will change to be the link, which will play a very important role between China and the rest of the world, especially the Portuguese-speaking countries. Recently, my team had a project working on the laws among the mainland, Macau, Hong Kong, and the Portuguese-speaking countries. We hope, and we are going to build a platform to facilitate different kinds of laws system which can communicate, at least at the first.
Good news for Rui Cunha Foundation.
At least we understand the language first. The language to help us to connect, and then we have the laws to help us to facilitate our business, to facilitate our communication and our activities between China, among China, Macau, Portuguese-speaking countries. So that's what we are trying to do, to use the AI and the chipset to empower this kind of project.
So Angus,
we are very optimistic.
So if I understand you correctly, of course this is a project of yours and you are involved with it, and we can understand it. But what you are saying is, for a Macau entrepreneur, doing the links we can do between China and the Western world, especially Portuguese-speaking countries, because Macau has its history, right?
Yeah, the history, the language, the connection.
The language connection, the communication, the mutual understanding to help Greater Bay Area to understand Portuguese-speaking countries, vice versa, etc. So this is the frame of the opportunity, as you see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam, would you like to comment that?
Well, it will be good. Macau is always trying to have a providing services for this, and then the AI, is definitely, as Angus saying, is good for company to consider Macau as at least a place for them to set up an office as a stepping stone to develop their business in the Greater Bay area.
Mm-hmm.
But again, for investment in Greater Bay Area, you have to consider to follow the PRC law, to follow the tax, to follow everything according to China, and also the currency control
and timings, etc. So it's an opportunity. It's not a paradise with open doors.
And actually, it is one of our expectation that if the renminbi can trade between China, Hong Kong, Macau, in this Greater Bay, it would be good, because at the moment this is under control. The renminbi between Macau and China is under control. And if it can be flown within the Greater Bay Area, it will be good.
Okay.
Now, if you remit renminbi into China, it's under control. You cannot do it freely.
Yeah, exactly. Time flies. We need to close this wonderful conversation. As I always say on this project with the Rui Cunha Foundation, we never close the conversation. These are opening talks where we pretend is to get people together and help everybody to think on what to do positively, where the opportunities are, and conscious of on the problems. So that's what we try to share every day in our newspaper. That's what Rui Cunha Foundation always try to do when we get people together, is this type of talks. Let's think together, and everybody needs to make decisions and understand what is happening. Thank you very much. I will make a last round just with this question that I ask you please to be synthetic. Short term as a player in Macau, in the short term, let's say until the end of the year, pessimism or positive signs, long term perspectives for Macau, positive signs or negative signs. I can start with Jose, like in the first round. Let's try to be short this time because we are over time, okay?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I completely agree with Sam when he says that in regard to Greater Bay Area, we need to have teams flowing in much better way. I think this is one of the keys for Greater Bay Area to succeed. And of course, it has to do with the long-term perspective for Macau. Once we have Greater Bay Area as a system, because at the end of the day, this is what is suspected Greater Bay Area to be by 2035, right? The economic system. So as much as we can accelerate this process of the Greater Bay Area becoming economic system, meaning that the flow of everything within the Greater Bay Area from the economic viewpoint becomes much more easier, faster, and so on. I think that the opportunity for Macau to improve our economic structure and performance in the future and to have a more sustainable model for our economy will be bigger, will be better. In the short term, I think the most important thing now is economic recovery, is bringing in as much as possible people, visitors, because our economic system is the one that we have. It's not something that we imagine or we would like to have. It's based on outside supply. So we need to bring these people inside Macau as much as possible, of course, with all the care so that eventually we will not fall into some kind of a trap whereby because we want to open too fast, then all in a sudden we have another crisis in Macau. So we need to be very careful, but I think there's no other way for the time being than to try to open up in a way that will allow our economy to pick up again. Yeah.
Some talking to an audience that is basically individual workers or public companies, SMI is majority. That's our experience in platform. Short-term needs and long-term perspectives, positive and negatives, please.
Short-term wise, I'm confident about that because the government has a lot of stimulus to inject to the economy. So I think Macau will okay for the coming months because of we have a strong government with a very strong fiscal reserve, but we cannot keep it like this for another year. We cannot suffer again. So that's why we need to consider our medium to long term. And Macau is an international city. We have an open economy. We should make use of this, this favorable policy. And we need to consider also Hengqin. How can we use Hengqin? I have a dream that Hengqin will follow Macau law. I have a dream. I have a dream that Macau need more space to develop further. In order to in line with the development of the Greater Bay. And so as I mentioned, we need to have a very a strong and effective action plan. How do we integrate these into the Greater Bay? We need the cooperation with other 9 cities in China and also Hong Kong. We cannot do it ourselves. Macau is a small economy, although it's open, small. We are relying on too much external demand. So we need to have a favorable policy and cooperation from 9 cities and Hong Kong in order to facilitate our role as a platform for China and Portuguese-speaking country. And we need to continue to develop our gaming industry, but we need to diversify. We cannot too much relying on gaming tax. We have been, over the 20 years, 60%, up to now 84% relying on gaming tax. We cannot do it like this. I'm optimistic in the long run, but yes, this is my personal opinion.
Okay, so thank you very much. Synthesizing, Sam understands the present is a big problem, but in special circumstances with a Macau government that can support and inject money in the economy in the short term. So it's a problem, but it's workable, and very good dreams for the near future. I noticed this point of if anything expands to the Macau mindset and the rule of law, that will be simply crucial on the way the Great Bay Area will be designed and the role of Macau. We all understand that. Well, I believe a lot of people need to work a lot for that to happen, right, Angus? It's not going to happen in the short time, so we have to resist. The company has to resist, be resilient and somehow conservative. You said it before. In the long term, you are an optimist. So tell us how to do the jump. How can we go from where we are to where we want to be?
Yeah, I think Macau is doing a good job at this moment. We are very safe, and economy seems to being in a recovery stage, and but we need to take careful, cautious measures for the reoccurrence of the COVID-19 in a very short term. In the long term, I think we cannot expect to go back to the old days, and Macau got to be changed, and our mindset needs to change. And as I said before, Macau should be a link or should be a hub between the mainland and the rest of the world, especially the Portuguese-speaking countries. In the past, we talked about the Sino-Portugal forum. We talked about the connection between the Portuguese-speaking countries and mainland. But we just talk. I think under the new framework of the Greater Bay Area and the new concept of Hengqin Macau, in terms of geographical and social, I think we need to go further ahead, that we need to do something solid. We need to do something concrete, that we actually can link the business between the mainland and the Portuguese-speaking countries. So for Macau business, like the SMEs, on the one hand, we need to be ready. We need to adopt the new technology. We need to understand things change. We got to use more online platform to do business. We need to be digitalized. And on the other hand, we need to go out. We need to go to embrace the opportunities which we will find in the Greater Bay Area. Just like what we are doing, we try to use our connection with the Portuguese-speaking countries. We try to use the languages that we know, or try to use the cultures that we are more familiar, to help us to connect, make the connection first. And then, as like our project, we try to use the laws, we try to use the laws as the first platform to connect and to help to facilitate the business, and in the long run, in the long term, which can help us to do more business, to enforce the role of the Macau as a link or as a hub. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Thank you very much, Angus. Sam, thank you very much. Salas Marcus, thank you very much. To everybody who was watching us. Our compromise in platform, our compromise in this project with the Rui Cunha Foundation is getting people here that we can learn from them and we can share their experiences. We are not here for people to agree with us. We are here to help people to think and make their own decisions. I think focus and decision times are coming. That's our compromise. We are here to share, to learn, to help your decisions. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you everybody for watching us. Thank you Rui Cunha Foundation for helping us in this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.